Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 10 of the Pop Punk Podcast with me, T. Will Official, and my GS co-host, Mr. Daddy Must Say What's Up.
What's up, everybody? Once again, thank you for, of course, listening in again for another episode for 2.5 months. It seems pretty crazy. We're on episode 10, but thanks once again for that rousing introduction, like always.
Oh, absolutely, sir. Absolutely. And today we have a topic that I'm pretty excited to talk about. Before we do that, though, before we even do the what are we listening to, I'd like to make a little correction. So last week when we were talking about movies, I mentioned that I didn't really like Jake Gyllenhaal. Well, I was thinking about it the other night, and I was thinking, like, dude, honestly, I couldn't really tell you why I didn't like Jake Gyllenhaal, because the only real Jake Gyllenhaal movie I've seen was End of Watch, and I really liked that movie. So then I got to thinking, what I think it was, when I was, like, younger, like, real younger, he did an episode of SNL, like, he was the host. And that episode really wasn't that funny, in my opinion. And you know, little kid logic, where it's like, because that episode wasn't funny, I thought it was Jake Gyllenhaal's fault, so I didn't like him, because I thought he wasn't funny. So, little kid logic doesn't always make the most sense, so, Jake, I would like to officially apologize. Well, anyway.
Well, I'm sure if he's ever listening, I'm sure he would be, think you'll accept your apology if he was ever listening.
Yeah, well, it's just because I was thinking about it, and I was like, dude, I don't really know if I can even say it, because, like, I've seen End of Watch. End of Watch was amazing. In particular, I did like his character in the movie. I think that was the only thing I really seen with him in it, but, like, I'd be down to see, like, Prince of Persia, because I do like the Prince of Persia games. And I think he's a pretty solid choice. So I really don't have any reason for, like, why I wouldn't like him, other than, like I said, just little kid logic.
Yeah, everything Jake Gyllenhaal has been in that I saw, I enjoyed him quite.
Yeah, Donnie Darko. I would absolutely see Donnie Darko.
It's a very hipster film. Like a lot of the, I guess, alternative kids love that movie, but they couldn't even actually tell you the actual plot or philosophy. But
yeah, I mean, it sounds interesting to me. But yeah, but that's besides the point. I just wanted to get that out there before we even started. Now, you guys know we do this every single week. Ed, what have you been listening to this week, sir?
Let me pull up my Spotify real quick.
Okay,
my good afternoon. More of the same. It's the Ataris, Armor for Sleep, Newfound, Census Fail, Fall Out Boy, It's really stuff you'd expect from me, honestly, at all this point, and a little bit of Angels and Airwaves, and before you say anything, I was listening to it for educational purposes. I was listening to a little bit of California Kicks, just to kind of, for education purposes.
Listen, I don't hold it against you.
Oh, I just needed to get a little bit of tasting, see what it seems when you combine two crazy genres that usually don't belong together. I wanted to see what it sounds like, okay?
I accept you.
Okay, well, thank you. But other than that, it's really kind of just been more of the same, the Ataris, Newfound, Blank, Angels and Airwaves, Fall Out Boy, stuff that you would expect me to be listening to. How about yourself?
So my top 5 and my on repeat is, I kind of guess, still more of the same. Bad Girls Club by Falling in Reverse, The Guillotine by Escape the Fate, Man of the Year by Juice WRLD, Concert for Aliens by MGK, and then Game Over by Falling in Reverse. And then rounding out like into a top 7, there's also There's No Sympathy for the Dead by Escape the Fate and Better Than Revenge by Taylor Swift. Have you ever heard that song?
Is it one of her new songs?
No, it's off her 3rd album, I think.
What's it called again?
It's called Better Than Revenge. It's actually pretty good. It sounds kind of like something you hear from, like, Hey Monday or something.
Okay.
Like
2010 off the album Speak Now.
It has like I wouldn't call it a pop punk song, but it definitely has like that flavor to it.
Well, I mean, according to Google, when you Google that song, it says genres: country music, pop punk, country pop.
See, exactly. There you go. Like I said, it definitely has a little bit of a flavor in there. Obviously, it has to if it sounds a little like Hey Monday. Because it does kind of sound like Hey Monday to me. It sounds like something they would put out.
Yeah, it dropped in 2010.
Yes, I was listening to that. I was listening to, I saw on YouTube somebody did like a pop punk version of like one of her newer songs. And in the comments they were saying, oh, this sounds like something that would be off Speak Now. And then like, because I get curious, I browse like the replies to that comment, and they're all talking about like the songs off that album and how it has kind of a pop punk flavor to it. And somebody mentioned the song Better Than Revenge. So my curious ass went to go put it on. And sure enough, they were right. I really enjoyed that song. So there's that, and then on top of that, I still just I haven't been able to stop listening to. I would say Ronnie, but it's not just Ronnie's music, because I've also been listening to that first album with Craig on it from Escape the Fate. But I've been listening to so much Escape the Fate and so much Falling in Reverse. It's that shit. I've been hooked on it for the past like 2 weeks.
I could tell, man. I could tell from your Instagram stories and just from talking to you.
Yeah. Oh my god. I shouldn't really say I discovered it, because I've known this album existed forever, but never listened to it. But I just found the There's No Sympathy for the Dead EP on Spotify, and oh, dude, this is good stuff. I think I might.
The Escape the Fate EP.
Yeah, it's called There's No Sympathy for the Dead, but I do think they do have a self-titled EP as well, right?
Well, that's what I was talking about. Just making sure we're on the same page with Escape the Fate with Ronnie and stuff.
Yeah. It's before their first album, and yeah, it's really good. I almost want to say I like it better than the first album, but I don't know if I do, because the first album is also really, really good.
Oh yeah, I remember this album. That EP cover was somewhere deep into my subconscious for the longest time. It's been like. I've been at least 12, 13 years since I saw that EP cover, so yeah, that's cool.
I very much enjoy the song As You're Falling Down.
Track 4 off that EP, actually.
And I also think it's kind of funny, because that EP has 2 songs that are off the first album. There's No Sympathy for the Dead and The Guillotine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just funny, because it's the exact same song. Like, I thought it was going to be maybe like almost like demo sounding versions, or like, like old versions that they re-recorded. No, they just took the tracks and like re-released them onto the album. Which, honestly, like, I kind of understand that, because I mean, me and you, we're music guys, so we're gonna delve deep into a band we like and listen to their EPs and stuff, but the general public doesn't go digging, right? The general public just likes what... Oh, Princess knocked over my phone. The general public is just gonna listen to, like, what's, like, readily available, and EPs aren't always readily available. So I do understand where they're coming from with it.
And I also make sense of why it's on the same. Why it's like he says it's the same exact song, right? Recording wise and everything.
Yeah, like I don't even think they re-recorded it. I think they just took the song and just put it on the album.
That makes sense, because that EP was also put out by Epitaph Records, so you don't have to worry about legal reasons. Because when bands write a song, the record label owns the recording, but the band owns the music. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So like I totally get that. 100%. Like I don't say it in a bad way. I just say it because I thought it was hilarious. Because I was listening to the EP and I was expecting like like a, I don't want to say like a demo version, because like if it was ready enough to put it on an EP, then obviously it's not a demo. But I was expecting like a like a older sounding version, maybe a not as good quality version, because it was an EP before they got like, I mean, I guess they were already with a label because they were already with Epitaph, but like I wasn't expecting the same exact song.
Oh, and also a fun fact: song "As You're Falling Down" is actually featured in the soundtrack to Arena Football 2: Road to Glory for the PS2.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, see, when you come onto this podcast, you learn fun facts like that. You're not getting that anywhere else.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because me and Ed, we got that knowledge of shit that's like really not that important, but it's important to us. Damn it.
Yeah, well, it's funny because every time you bring something up, I'm literally typing it into Google or Wikipedia as we speak. So I'm just reading about everything, so I can throw my little 2 cents in there.
Exactly. So that's how you know. That's how you know that we know all this shit.
If you know, you know.
If you
That's what the kids say nowadays.
IYK.
Yep. I've been seeing that a lot online, especially from my nephews.
Yeah. That's just a little rundown of what I've been listening to. So today's topic, I want to talk about a little something. I want to talk about, because it's two things that are kind of intertwined because I don't really see them as mutually exclusive. I think it's actually one because of the other. And I'm going to talk about top 40 pop punk, or what I call top 40 pop punk, and entry level pop punk. And like I said, I think that they're not mutually exclusive because I think the entry level bands are always gonna become top 40 bands because they're so like easily accessible, right? And they're like very like they're something that like the masses can enjoy, right? Like obviously, again, me and you, we're music guys, so we're gonna enjoy a majority of the pop punk we listen to anyway. But like I'm talking like entry level, like top 40, like making waves on like Billboard and shit.
Yeah, Billboard, MTV, MySpace. We're talking about real old school, but essentially,
Exactly.
yeah,
So
that.
you got your Blink 182s, your Sum 41s, your Green Days, Good Charlotte, Simple Plan, uh, Bowling for Soup, Newfound Glory. Like all those bands. All those bands are what I would call top 40, and that also, yeah, again, like I probably call them like entry level because that's like what you listen to when you're like first getting into a genre, right? Like you listen to those bands because that's just like what's popular, and then you realize like, oh, this is actually really good, and then you want to listen to more, and that's where you go digging deeper, and
that's where you fall into the rabbit hole.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to talk a little bit about it because I feel like a lot of the top 40 bands kind of have a little bit of a stigma of, oh, because they're popular, they're overrated garbage, right? And I don't think that. I don't think that because I think, like entry level bands, like the top 40 bands, I think they're important, right? I think they're important for any genre, not just pop punk, but like any genre, right? Because if you don't have entry level bands, right? Like what are like the teenagers gonna get into that like they listen to, and then they grow up and then become like like pop punk fans, right? You can't do that if you don't have any like entry level shit.
Yes, and then there's going to be no more bands, and the scene and genre will eventually die before it even lived to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. So I think entry level stuff is very important. Like you need Blink 182 and Sum 41. Reluctantly, and we're going to talk more about this. Reluctantly, you need Green Day.
Yes, I guess you do.
Yeah. I think we can actually talk about that right now because that's something. Number one, unfortunately, we do have to talk about Green Day because this is the part of the podcast where I might sound a little hypocritical, but I don't think I'm hypocritical because I don't hate them because they're popular. I wouldn't even really say I hate them. I just don't really like them. And I think the reason why I personally don't like them is because they've always been kind of marketed more towards like people who don't like pop punk and more like rock people, so to say, right? Like
Yeah.
to kind of get what I'm talking about, right? Like to people that don't know music, right? You don't really tell them you listen to pop punk because they're not gonna know what the fuck you're talking about. So you can either say you like rock music or you like emo music because they're gonna know one of those two. If you like Blink 182 and like like Good Charlotte and stuff, you could tell people like I like emo music. But if you listen to Green Day, I feel like that's more like for the people that would be like, yeah, I like rock music.
Yeah, because go on.
I just want to say real quick. And I'd never like dislike a band because of a fan base. But what I don't like about Green Day is they kind of have that mindset themselves. They've always been more like into the rock scene than the actual pop punk scene, if you ask me. Like a lot of their songs have like a more rocky flavor to it, and culminating in their newest album, which in my opinion is just one of the worst albums I've ever heard in my life. I mean, like I said, I already kind of wrote off Green Day a while ago, so I don't feel as strongly about it as I do like maybe like Blink's new albums, because I still listen to and enjoy like the old Blink 182, the Blink 182 that I love. So I don't necessarily feel as strongly about Green Day's new shit being terrible, but it is like that Father of All song might be one of the worst songs I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, you can say that again.
Yeah. And it just... Go ahead.
I think a lot of Green Day, I feel a lot of their crowd are the kind of the crowd that were very defensive, going, I listen to punk, they're not pop punk, they're punk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because like their old albums definitely have that flavor of like the '90s pop punk, which is kind of interchangeable with like skate punk. Like the one Green Day song that I used to enjoy, I haven't listened to it in a while, so I can't tell you if I would still like it. But I remember it was just called like "Going to Pasalaquah," whatever the fuck it's called.
Oh yeah, it's off of 39 Smooth.
Yeah, and it's just pretty much it's just like your generic like late '80s, early '90s like skate punk.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, I mean that was pop punk at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was pop punk at the time. I know. I'm just saying, like, because back then it wasn't, it was nowhere near as commercial as it was in like the late '90s, early 2000s. So like, I feel like it still had that cred, and the attitude was just different because they still had like that punk mentality. They just sang melodies instead of like rah, 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 rah.
Yeah, definitely for sure. I mean, I definitely enjoy Kerplunk and Dookie quite a bit.
Yeah, and I like I said, I haven't heard them in a while, so my opinion could change. But as of the last time I listened to like 39 Smooth and Kerplunk and shit, I remember thinking like it wasn't terrible.
Yeah, I mean, Green Day is complicated. It's like, yeah, I definitely 100% appreciate them. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate them. I think they're probably, I want to say, probably a close second of most important pop punk bands of all time.
Yeah,
Behind
definitely.
Blink.
Blink absolutely needs to be first, but I probably would put Green Day in second.
The reason why I call Blink more important than Green Day is just because Blink with Enema is the sound. They reinvented what pop punk is. When Enema dropped, that's when every pop punk band became really kind of, I guess, sugary sounding lyrics and vocals with some real catchy, slimy guitar riffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Like, Enema is what definitely revolutionized the genre, because before that, I mean, there was definitely songs that were pop punk mentality, but you could definitely tell they're a bit more faster. They were either more emo influence, and when I mean emo, I mean more like the Get Up Kids, and or more on the punkier, skate punky side, like Millencolin. So, but when Enema dropped, it was definitely revolutionized how the genre changed, because the first Newfound Glory album had a real kind of emo hardcore vibe that you would expect from like sounds like a real Get Up Kids influenced pop punk. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or Saves the Day sounded like Lifetime, where it was like this melodic hardcore. It would be like melodic hardcore, but the dude just was like 17, so it wasn't that hard per se. So, but you know what I mean? Like the pop punk before that was either skate punk or it was like very like emo. And when I mean say emo, it was like like Get Up Kids or Lifetime and stuff like that, not like mall emo, which we'll get to further down the road. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, we will definitely be talking about the mall emo today.
That's why I could put Green Day as definitely the second most important pop punk band, because I mean, there's people who love Green Day now. I mean, Green Day at one point was one of my favorite bands when I was like 10 and 11.
Yeah, so I think my history with Green Day is actually funny because, like, as a little kid, I hated them. And I think because again, I was saying earlier with Jake Gyllenhaal, little kid logic was, I think my best friend growing up, Green Day was his favorite band. And I didn't like them because they weren't like my favorite band, which growing up was Def Leppard. So because they didn't sound exactly like Def Leppard, I thought they were stupid.
I mean,
and then as I started getting into pop punk, because like I said, they are an entry level band. They are a like a top 40 band. Like as you said, and as I agree with you, they're probably the second most popular and important band in the genre, right after Blink. So as I was getting into the genre, I loved them. I thought they were amazing. And then, kind of like further down the road, I started to have a more legitimate reason to not like them. Like I said, I just kind of didn't really like the rock influence and how they seem to be marketed more towards people that liked, like AC/DC and shit than people that liked, like Blink and Good Charlotte and all that.
Yeah, and they're just, I have other personal reasons not to like Green Day, just from Billy Joe Armstrong's just persona, I guess, or personality per se.
He's very loud and obnoxious, I feel like.
Yeah, and it seems like he's like homeboy's like 50 something and he's still trying to seem like cool and edgy, but he's like 48, but he's out here dropping an album called Father of All Mother Effers.
Yeah, I mean, you could say it like this. This is an
Well,
uncensored
I
podcast.
think my mother I think my mother wants to start listening to it, so you know how she gets.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
but you know
that
I'm 25, but God forbid.
that father of all is, yeah. And I mean, like, yeah, for a while they're always like I said, like I just kind of wrote them off as just kind of like, eh. Like it's, I guess, like I said, this is why I said I didn't want to say I hate them, because I don't hate them. The only, I think, album by them I truly dislike is that Father of All album. But like everything after like Kerplunk is just kind of like eh to me. Like I'm not gonna listen to it. If it comes on in the car or something, I mean, if I'm the one that's driving, I might skip it because like I'm in control. But like like whoever's driving is in control of the radio. And if I'm in the car with like one of my boys or whatever, and Green Day comes on, I'm not gonna like be scratching at the window to let me out. You know what I mean?
I feel you, Slim.
I feel like
So
this is kind of where I am with Green Day. I felt like I wanted to get that off my chest because, like I said, I know I might sound a little hypocritical because, like I said, I know like entry level bands, top 40 bands, very important, and a lot of what I say, I'm afraid it might come off as I don't like them because I think they're overrated, but that's not the case. I just really don't like them because, like I said, it just kind of stems to I'm not a big fan of rock music. And I think Green Day is just kind of lumped in with the rock crowd more than they are with the pop punk crowd. And like I said, to summarize, I know I'm just kind of rehashing from what I said earlier, but it's not the fan base that I hate. I'll never hate a band for its fan base or dislike a band in Green Day's case because like I said, I don't want to say hate. That's a strong word. I'll never dislike a band because they're a fan base, but I just feel like they themselves have that mentality and they see themselves more in the same ballpark as like AC/DC or Aerosmith or like something like that than they do like Blink and Simple Plan and Sum 41.
yeah, they definitely have that more rock and roll vibe. Like when you go to Guitar Center and you see all the rock bands, they're lumped in with Aerosmith and
Yeah, and I
all those guys.
the local rock station around here is always like playing Green Day and talking about how awesome they are and shit.
Yeah, but hey, that's life sometimes. But they're definitely important, and I mean, I like Green Day a lot growing up, and I'm not the biggest fan now, but I still enjoy Dookie and Kerplunk and a pre-millennium. I would say not a big fan of, but a decent enough fan, I guess per se. Where it's like when
Mm-hmm.
someone says you like these albums, I would go, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, except for the song Brain Stew. I'm sorry, I do not like Brain Stew.
Yeah, I felt like I was about to have a stroke when we were playing that.
Yeah, Brain Stew is kind of a it's definitely got that 90s vibe to it. And I'll just say right now, I think the mid 90s, like, or I guess early and mid 90s, like 91, 92 to like 96, is probably my least favorite era of music. Like, I don't like grunge. I don't like that 90s alternative sound, like, like Smashing Pumpkins and stuff. I like, I don't dislike skate punk and like the early 90s pop punk, but I definitely don't like it as much as like the late 90s early 2000s brand.
Yes, post Enema, I guess one could
Yeah,
say.
yeah, the pre-enema, post-enema, yeah. And post-enema is definitely the stuff that I prefer. But again, that's not to say that the early and mid, just for my point, right? I don't like it as much as like the later stuff. And it just kind of goes into how I said, like 91 to like 96 is probably my least favorite era of music. And Brain Stew is totally, it has that same vibe. So like as much as like I said, as much as I have a love-hate relationship with Green Day, Brain Stew is definitely on the hate side.
Well, Brain Stew is essentially just an accumulation of everything you dislike about 90s rock music in general,
Yeah, 100% agreed.
That alternative feel, it's got a grunge feel, just...
Yeah, it's just a culmination of all just stuff that is not pleasant to my ears. And, I know music's subjective, right? I know there's people that love that shit, and if you like Brain Stew, more power to you. But that is just, my ears just reject that song.
Especially when I'm trying to... My body was rejecting it. I felt like I was having a stroke / a seizure / convulsions. It was like... I was about to cry, man.
Oh yeah, it's for what Ed's talking about. Is I remember we were having a jam session with John from Win by Two, who I know listens to this podcast. So what's up, dude? But yeah, so we were having a jam session and we played Brain Stew, and me and Ed were looking at each other like, I don't know about this one, man.
Oh, I know. There was pain on my face.
Yeah, there's pain in my vocal cords.
Yeah, I know. But the Green Day, I mean, they're very important. A lot of people got their start with the genre through Dookie and, a Nimrod and American Idiot for the younger crowd. Like, these are all very important albums for the genre because a lot of people probably would not even picked up a guitar or a drum set or a bass if it wasn't for these albums. So, I mean,
yeah,
as much trash we're kind of throwing their way.
Yeah, it's sort of like I don't want to say
for the sake of the podcast, they're important, and I appreciate them for what they have done.
I appreciate them too. Yeah, it's sort of like I'm trying to think of a comparison where it's like you don't have to love something to appreciate it, right?
Yeah, it's like how I feel with the Beatles. I don't like the Beatles at all, but I can appreciate for what they did to like the rock genre,
or like even like something like Metallica. Like I don't really like them, but I appreciate they had like a trickle effect, right? Like they brought metal to the mainstream, and then pop punk people were like, "Yo, this metal stuff's pretty dope. Let's put it in our music," and then you get easycore.
Yeah, well, I think that was more closely to because they like metalcore and hardcore personally.
Yeah, but metalcore wouldn't exist if metal wasn't popular.
Yeah, it's all a trickle effect, but then you could be like, Chuck Berry never made freaking that Johnny Be Good, we wouldn't be having this conversation too.
Good point. Chuck Berry, I respect the fuck out of you, sir.
I like his cousin Marvin a bit better, personally. The future reference.
Oh yeah, he's the one that calls him like, "Yo, you know that sound you've been looking for? Listen to this!" And he puts the phone up to...
It's like, Chuck, it's your cousin Marvin Berry. You knew that new sound you were looking for? Well, listen to this. So technically, we get technical, Marty McFly is the originator.
If we're going there, yes.
Yes, well, in this canon universe, I guess you could. But I guess, we mentioned Blink about being another important, probably the most important, I guess.
Absolutely, because, like, where I guess Green Day laid the blueprints, Blink took them and created, like, the whole, like, map, if that makes any sense.
100%, sir. They perfected it, I guess you could say.
Green Day laid the blueprints, and then Blink took those blueprints and created the finished product. Because I would say, like, we're not going to talk too much about Blink, because we do have a whole episode dedicated to Blink, episode 3, for those that are watching on YouTube. So we're not going to talk a whole lot about this, but yeah, so, like, obviously Enema is definitely, like, what catapulted the genre into top 40 territory. And that's what made it, like, relevant, like, very relevant, like, basically, essentially pop music for a solid 4 or 5 years. And then even still then, I would say it's had an even longer lasting effect on the scene. Because, like, even though the last, not counting mall emo, right, the last true time pop punk was relevant to the masses was probably Hangover You Don't Deserve by Bowling for Soup, which came out in 2004. That, or probably... Actually, yeah, probably, if we're not taking mall emo into effect, that would probably be it. But, like, in the scene, that shit stayed relevant till, I don't know, maybe probably like the mid-2010s when soft grunge took over.
I mean, even with the neon bands that you love, and even easycore bands, I mean, those are the kids who grew up loving Blink-182 and Newfound, you know what I mean? Like, All Time Low, they worshipped Blink growing up, and Newfound, and 4 Years Strong, one of their favorite bands growing up was obviously Blink, so I mean, they laid the blueprints for not even their generation of, like, the late 90s, early 2000s, but even, like, the neon and easycore kids, because they grew up loving Blink-182, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, so it kind of goes down to more, like we were saying, with the little trickle effect.
Yeah, so I mean, All Time Low, where's their Blink influence on their sleeve. Obviously, I mean they all for a long time all had
Oh no, they
bright,
covered they
vibrant
covered
guitars.
they covered Time to Break Up, for God's sakes, and it sounds exactly like the original.
Yeah, but even so, their whole persona of you notice like on their cover arts they have a couple of I feel like Blink nods to them on their one live album or a certain things. Like I remember which is coincidental, but I remember they had like a live video and the guitar player had like a bra on his mic stand, which I don't know if I was overthinking it, but I know on the Martom and Travis show album cover art, there is I think like a bra on Tom DeLonge's mic stand, which I don't know if that was like maybe I'm overthinking it, but knowing All Time Low, I thought that was done purposely.
It could have been, yeah, because I know they fucking love Blink.
I mean, all their their guitars, their basses, they all had that bright, vibrant, like hot pink, these bright colors that Blink had back in the early 2000s, and I mean, obviously he's dude Alex is doing stuff with Simple Creatures with Mark Hoppus, and
Yeah.
like I said, like it's just a trickle effect. Why just going kind of reiterating and adding on to why I think Blink is the most important pop punk band of all time.
Oh, absolutely.
Because For Your Strong, Main Overboard, they took their name from a Blink-182 song, and Homeboy started acting like Tom DeLonge for the longest time. He specifically only used the Fender Tom DeLonge Stratocaster for the last few years of the band.
Yeah.
The same crappy jokes that Tom DeLonge said, but they weren't funny because Tom DeLonge said them 15 years ago.
Exactly, and that just goes again to how, like I said, like with the mindset of people like to have this mindset of like entry level equals bad. Like, it was fucking Blink-182. Like, come on, that shit's overrated. Shit's awful. But like without a super important band like them, right? Like, yeah, like there would be no All Time Low because All Time Low exists because of their love of Blink-182. There would be no. I mean, I'm sure the genre would still be around because it existed before Blink-182, but they changed the game for sure in 1999. So not only would it maybe not sound the same, like it might still just be another offshoot of punk, like like the early and mid 90s like skate punk flavor.
Yeah.
But not only that, but it also wouldn't have had its time in the limelight where it was essentially just pop music.
Yeah, so it's important for our current generation because even the bands that became mainstream after Blink, they probably would have, like, Simple Plan probably never would have gotten big. Good Charlotte never would have got big. Yellow Card, Newfound, none of these bands probably would have had that same impact if Blink never existed. I mean,
exactly.
Alistair's album in '99 was essentially a skate punk album, but in '02, Last Up Suburbia, they got that true like gummy sugar pop punk that I call that post Enema sound. Where, to be fair, Last Stop Suburbia, if I had to give an alien like this is what pop punk sounds like, I'll just give them that album because it's the most like pop punk album of all time.
Yeah. So like, yeah, basically, if you are into pop punk and you don't like Blink-182, that's fine. I respect your opinion. Everybody's opinions are different. People probably fucking look at me weird because I said I don't really like Green Day. But I'm at least asking you to respect them because without them, the genre literally would not be what it is.
Yes, sir. You are correct.
And yeah, so that's we're talking about the pop punk now. I want to talk a little bit about the entry level emo, so to speak, because again, I feel like I might be a little hypocritical here because I'm talking about like respecting the entry level like top 40 shit and telling people like like I think it's really good, but I might sound a little hypocritical here because I know the entry level stuff. You got your Panic at the Disco, your My Chemical Romance, your Paramore, and your Fall Out Boy. But I think the only really one of those that I really like is Fall Out Boy, and I don't even know if I can count that because the stuff I like by them is just pop punk.
Yeah, say this to your grave, where, as we mentioned many times, they were playing at a Knights of Columbus Hall during that album.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some My Chemical Romance that I enjoy, but I definitely wouldn't call myself a fan,
Oh,
Like
for sure, absolutely.
their first album has some beautiful post-hardcore on it. But
Hmm.
yeah, I wouldn't be like, yeah, I'm a My Chemical Romance fan.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. And the mall emo, I'm a big fan of Hawthorne, as you know.
Absolutely. And I mean, I guess like Hawthorne could definitely be considered like entry level top 40.
Oh,
They definitely
100%.
they definitely don't have the same relevancy today, because I know like
Yeah,
Fall Out Boy, Panic, Paramore, MCR, they're all still selling out stadiums, whereas Hawthorne is opening for Newfound Glory at like small venues. But that
yeah,
doesn't
which
change the fact that yeah, Ohio is for Lovers is like the all the small things of the mall emo genre.
I mean, and to be fair, I mean, if you want to really go about like mall emo, sure, there was little dabs of mall emo that got a little bit, but like I think Hawthorne and like was one of the first like big. It came out 1 week before Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge, so I'm considering it almost the peak because I mean that album went gold. It went number one on the Billboard Heat Seekers chart. You know, it sold almost a million copies. So I mean, I would definitely say it was a big deal.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not. I am not downplaying their relevancy in general. I was just simply saying I think it's weird because all the other bands are selling out stadiums and all, and then they're opening for Newfound Glory. They're selling shirts to say I used to listen to Hawthorne Heights in high school. Like,
Yeah, I
they,
think
they,
Hawthorne just. It's
God,
funny how all our conversations kind of go like complete circle because like the thing with Hawthorne is that those other bands, you can definitely tell that they changed. They kept with the times. Hawthorne just kept releasing the same frickin' album for the last 15 years, and that's why they didn't make
that's
albums.
true. That's true. That's true. And I really enjoy their one EP, which is just like a pop punk EP.
Yeah,
The
I think it was called
one
Hope.
Yeah,
I believe.
the one song was even like I just consider it easy core. I forgot the name of it right now. I thought it was like Nikki AM.
Yeah, a little play on words of FM, bank on your nostalgia. Or Nikki,
Yeah.
is it FM or AM? I forget.
Well, Nikki
Whatever.
FM is the hit. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it right now. Nikki
Okay,
FM
cool.
was the hit from 2000. Well,
Four.
the single was released in 2005, but the album came out in 2004.
Yeah,
Um,
but I mean, yeah, like Hawthorne is just kind of they just release music for Hawthorne fans, and good for them if that's what you like. Because I mean, there are some really good songs on that 2018 album, personally. But
yeah,
like I said, it's the same shit. You know what I mean? Like MCR, they changed a lot. You know, they had their
that's true.
post-hardcore album with their first album, then they had their mall emo pop punk stuff in '04. Then they just went full blown mall emo, which is when it became mainstream, which is when it was on the news going 10 warning, 10 signs to see if your kid's emo. You know what I mean? Like there's that emo hysteria of the mid 2000s, and that was just fantastic.
That's true, and yeah, and Paramore's doing the same shit. I will say, I do like there is a Paramore song. I like this song called "Pressure." I think that's a good song. Yeah. Other than that, though, yeah, I'm not like super into them. They did like they fucking first album was kind of the same. It was like mall emo, and the second album was more like straightforward. I guess you could say like pop punk, pop rock. And then I know then eventually they just went like full on like pop, which again, like I don't want to sound like a hater. I'm not I don't dislike them like because they're going pop or whatever. More power to them. Hey, they're still selling out stadiums, whereas Hawthorne is opening for Newfound Glory. But yeah, never really been big on them. Panic has always been funny to me because I feel like their career has just been copying Fall Out Boy. Like
Yeah,
2003, they're out here making songs that sound like Fall Out Boy's like old stuff, and then Fall Out Boy goes pop, and then Panic at the Disco goes pop.
Yeah, well, that's just Brandon Urie at that point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does seem like it's just Brandon Urie's band at this point. Like you look at the past members section on their Wikipedia page, and it's just like a whole bunch of shit. So yeah. I feel like at that point that almost says something about Brandon Urie if you got that many people going in and out.
To be fair, Brandon Urie is technically the only member. He just has tour members since 2017.
Yeah, I think I remember hearing that too. Like, yeah, it really is just literally Brendon Urie.
Yeah, because everybody else, they just kind of became his band in like 2000 and like 15 or 2010. Because like their last, I'm looking at the Wikipedia now. Like their last release as a band, as like a full blown band, was 2013, and the last two albums have just been Brendon Urie.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know that's just Brendon Urie's band at this point. And I've never been like too crazy on them because I know most of the top 40 bands all have, or at least MCR and Panic are they're very like theatrical, for lack of a better term. And I've never really been crazy about that.
Yeah, I always just enjoy kind of just straight up just music. But I mean, I guess sometimes you got.
I mean you can hear it in the music. Like it's very theatrical, for lack of a better term. Like the Black Parade song with the piano coming in, and it's just like it almost sounds like something you would hear in a musical. That makes sense.
Yeah, I can see where you come from. And even the concerts and performances, they all had this giant production behind it. You know what I mean? Like it was legit, like choreographed. It wasn't just Chad Gilbert getting all sweaty and stinky, telling everybody to stop breaking up a fight. Here's my friends over you for the 10,000th time in a row.
Yeah. Yeah, so like that's what I meant when I said like obviously I know like they have theatrics. Like I remember like when the Black Parade came out, they were all dressed up like they were like fucking like like band kids.
Yeah,
but I meant like I meant more like in the music too. Like you could tell like it was very theatrical, like sounded like it was like a musical.
Yeah, well, I mean, even with like Panic! At the Disco, they had like like rope dancers in like this kind of like these old school outfits and everything like that.
Yeah. And there is a Panic! At the Disco song that I do enjoy. I forget the name of it right now. It was the one that was in Saints Row 2. I think it's like Lying. Lying is the most fun. I forget the rest of it.
Lying is the most fun a girl can have without taking her clothes off.
Yeah, I genuinely really enjoy that song. And I also don't mind 9 in the Afternoon, but I wouldn't really say I like that song. I'm kind of just like more so impartial to it because it was in Rock Band. And as I said on I think like episode 2, if a song's in Rock Band, I'm gonna be much more favorable towards it because I probably played the hell out of it when I was like 12. So,
yeah.
So I wouldn't really say I like it because I don't ever put it on for my own personal enjoyment. But I don't think I can. In all honesty, say that I hate that song because it just reminds me of being like 13, like all my friends would come over and I was the cool kid because I had all the DLC. And just we would all get our little band in quotation marks together and just play some Rock Band.
Well, fun fact, kind of go full circle. Panic! At the Disco started out as a Blink-182 cover band.
Very nice. I didn't know that. I would have assumed they would be a Fall Out Boy cover band.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I think when From Under the Cork Tree came out like maybe a year before their first album, so I'm sure they already had their whole shtick. I think the reason why they were compared is because they were on a Pete Wentz's label, and their song titles are all super long and weird.
Fair enough.
Yeah, they started as a Blink cover band, which is, once again, a very, full circle about how Blink is the most important pop punk band of all time.
Yeah, definitely goes full circle. And to also go full circle real quick, I also want to talk about how Green Day had a little taste of that like top 40 mall emo fame too with the Boulevard of Broken Dreams. Because I know, like, they are not anywhere close to mall emo, but I definitely see that song get brought up a lot when people are talking about like songs you listen to in middle school or shit like that, where it's like it's like My Chemical Romance, Panic! At the Disco, Fall Out Boy, Paramore, and then they'll bring up like Boulevard of Broken Dreams too.
Yeah,
and they definitely had that aesthetic as well.
Well, yeah, because I think they were the first band to are dressing in like black, all black with the red ties and the guy liner. Because I mean, all of a sudden, MCR started doing it. Even the non-mall emo bands like Tony Lovato started wearing like the red ties and crap with MS, and even Alistair started trying to rock the ties. I'm like, yo, bro, chill your Alistair.
I love Mess small emo album, but that's another story for another day because I wouldn't consider that top 40 or entry level.
Yeah, that's definitely the second tier of the scene of what these bands inspire. Because like without like Blink, the Drive-Thru Records explosion never would have happened. But that's a different story.
And for the record, when we say mall emo, we don't mean that in like a mocking way. We really say it. The reason I say it, at least, is because whenever you bring up emo in a conversation, right? Like if you're talking about Hawthorne Heights or like like My Chemical Romance or anything like that, there's always going to be that one old head that's like, that's not real emo. So I'd say mall emo because like I think it is like a legitimate term, but I like to say it because it's like the type of shit that all like the scene kids that like to go to the malls and shit would listen to. And then
that's the stuff you would buy at Hot Topic when you're like 12. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like Hot Topic core.
And then the stuff that the old heads like, that's what I call, in finger quotes, real emo. I use that term mockingly because I'm just making fun of the old heads. But I don't say, I say mall emo, honestly, like, maybe mockingly, but like a joking, loving type mockingly, if that makes any sense. Because I do love the genre.
I mean, I definitely have respect for all the emo, for lack of a better term. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
emo's too broad of a term, I feel like, because there's so many different.
Because some people say either, because you go from emo, you got the math rock kids who love Midwest emo and they love, American football. And then you got some guys who say, I like emo, but they're out here talking about Saves the Day and Midtown. They got the other emo kids talking about like Hawthorne Heights and Census Fail and Silverstein and MCR and stuff like that. And you got some people who just say, Newfound Glory is an emo band, and Yellow Card. Oh, yeah, sure, let's go with that.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. How, like, obviously, us were music guys. I said that like 4 times. As anybody watching this podcast knows, I'm a music guy, and if you're watching this podcast, I'm assuming you're a music guy or girl too. So like, I can say pop punk with you because like you're gonna know what I'm talking about. But if I'm talking to somebody that doesn't really listen to music, or at least isn't as into like the scene as I am, I'll just tell people I like emo music. Because like I said, I am, in my opinion, it's better than saying I like rock. I'd rather have somebody think I like My Chemical Romance than have somebody think I like Nickelback.
Oh, for sure. Every time I talk to like an old head at work, they're saying, they're like, oh, you put on like, I tell them I'm putting emo music on.
Exactly, cause like I said, I'd rather you think I listen to MCR, cause as I said, all 4 of those bands that I said I'm not really a fan of, I just mean as a whole. That doesn't mean that they don't have songs that I enjoy, and I think all 4 of the, I guess, big 4 of the mall emo, they do all have songs that I enjoy. Like, MCR has pretty much, honestly, probably that whole, at least most of the stuff off their first album. I can't say I've listened to the whole first album, but everything I heard off that first album I like. And I do, as far as their hit scale, I do enjoy the song Helena. It's really when the 3rd album comes out that I drop off.
I mean, I like it kind of ironically just because the true aesthetic of like emo and how over the top it is, I find it like funny as the same way, you know what I mean?
The haunted imagery, as you love to put it.
The haunted imagery is what I love about it. The music itself, no, but seeing all of them as dead people in marching band suits and the guy liner, oh my god, it's perfectly. And I love the fans with the jackets saying, we're not a cult, we're the MCR army, apply now.
Oh yeah, the MC army.
I love that shit so much, dog. No capping allowed.
No cap. And then obviously probably the band from the, I guess, big 4 that I enjoy the most probably would be Fall Out Boy, because like I said, their first 2 albums I love them both. Their 3rd out, I enjoy the song Thriller, but I think I mainly only like the chugging part. Where it's like,
Well, yeah.
dun, 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 dun,
I mean, it's the
dun,
ultimate
dun.
cock tease, to be honest with you, because you're thinking like,
I know, because you think it's gonna be this heavy, like almost like easy core sounding song, and then it just kind of gets very chill for the verses.
I mean, it's just straight up just chugging and drop D, baby. In '07, that's all you needed.
And as I said before, I've probably said it on this podcast before. Even though I'm not really a fan of their pop stuff, I respect it because Pete Wentz's bank account, as of the last time I checked, it could be more now, but as of the last time I checked, his bank account was $16 million, and you don't get that playing "Sugar We're Going Down" in 2020.
Yeah, or his bank account is fat as hell, and Hey Chris, oh, Fall Out Boy friend fame is, I don't know what he's doing.
Yeah, Ed loves to read the letter that Hey Chris sent to Pete Wentz.
A little back information, if you're a big Fall Out Boy fan, the song "Grenade Jumper" has that like, "Hey Chris, you are our only friend." Well, Chris was a friend, and he just had a nice open letter. If you really want to get into the Lord, it's quite a treat, and I say that. And I read it when I'm at work when I'm bored. Don't tell my bosses, but I don't know how to explain to them if I get caught on my phone. Like, what are you doing? I can't tell them I'm listening to an open letter from Hey Chris in 2005 talking about how Pete Wentz sucks.
He calls him like a sellout and shit.
Oh, I know. He's like, I never knew what to wear shirts with effing dinosaurs on them, you spineless sham.
Very good stuff. Very good stuff.
It's like, you gotta just read it yourself. It's great stuff, dude. It's great stuff.
So their first two albums, I love. I do enjoy the song "Thriller," and I respect their pop. Even if I don't like it, I respect it. And honestly, like I enjoy pop music. Just their particular brand of it isn't really for me. Like Centuries and stuff like that. I just want to say real quick, this isn't like a part of the main topic, but I'm going off topic for a second. If you ever want to hear something really good, listen, it's a band called New Wave. It's NEW.WAV. That's how they spell it. They have a cover of Centuries, and they did it in the style of Take This to Your Grave era Fall Out Boy, which is their first album. Or their first like label album, because I think they did have like a demo album before that.
Yeah, they had like Fall Out Boy and Evening Out with Your Girlfriend. Even though it is like a full blown like album, for whatever reason, they don't actually like canon to them.
So it's their first official album.
Yeah.
And they cover Centuries in the style of Take This to Your Grave, and it's just it's very accurate, and it's a genuinely good song. I have it in my, I think I have it in my playlist. If I don't, I'm gonna have to add it. But it's just, yeah, if you like old Fall Out Boy, then in particular, then I think you'll really like that cover that dude did. Or I don't know if it's a band or just a dude, but new NEW.WAV. It's good stuff.
Yeah,
and I guess they're not really a part of the big four, but if we're talking like entry level top 40, we're gonna have to talk about them because I've been hooked on them for the past 2 weeks. My personal favorite of the genre would definitely be Escape the Fate. I'm not just saying that because I've been on an Escape the Fate kick. Like, they have been my favorite for a while. Because I know they're kind of weird because they get lumped in with like metalcore a lot more. They're almost like the Green Day, right? Where like they kind of get lumped in with a different, like I know they get lumped in a lot with the heavier stuff. And I think the whole reason for that is the song The Guillotine. Because that's their only real straight up metalcore song. Because it's about Halo, which if you enjoy the Halo games, I enjoy the Halo games. I don't like Escape the Fate because of The Guillotine, but it was definitely a nice little treat since I already liked Escape the Fate and I already liked Halo.
Yeah, it's just a little treat.
But that's their only, in my opinion, it's their only pure metalcore song. At least off of their first two albums. Because I haven't heard after album 3, but as far as I know, according to Wikipedia, starting with album 3, they really take the metalcore thing and run with it.
Yeah, well, I think they definitely became wannabe Motley Crue after that.
Then after that, I think they just did rock. But, their first album in particular, I would honestly put in the same class as, like, Hawthorne Heights over, like, All That Remains. And
Okay.
it's some really good stuff. As I was saying earlier in the "What Are We Listening To" section, their first album and their first EP, beautiful. It's just
Well,
beautiful mall emo.
I mean, yeah, the genres on the first on Donnie's latest fashion is emo, post-hardcore, screamo, metalcore, pop punk in that order.
Yeah, it's all over the place. And like I said, I think that's definitely why they get lumped in, is because they do have some harder stuff. Because I would say even the lighter songs they have still definitely have a post-hardcore sheen to them. So I mean, I guess on the one point I can kind of see why they get lumped in, but on the other hand, like I said, the only full metalcore songs they have are, out of the ones I heard, are the Guillotine and This War Is Ours, in parentheses, the Guillotine Part 2.
I love that. Just they had to put in parentheses just for some fan service.
Yeah, I think they actually have. Well, they have 3 guillotine parts, and then Falling in Reverse has a part 4. I only really know the first 2 parts, but I do know I heard part 3. I wasn't really a fan of part 3, and then part 4 isn't even about Halo. I think it was just Ronnie's way of saying it started with me, it ends with me, because it's called like
Yeah,
the final
exactly.
chapter.
Well, I like that though.
But yeah, no, it's Guillotine. I think that's the sole reason they got lumped in with metalcore. But again, like I said, the first album, even in some spots on the second album, was definitely a lot more rocky. But I said this last week. It's a little more rocky, but it's still very post-hardcore. But I wouldn't say the second album really has a whole lot of emo to it, because it's definitely, the second album is post-hardcore with rock influences. Their first album, though, is just beautiful mall emo. Like, not good enough for the truth and cliche. That's something to rival Ohio is for lovers.
I think I have a theory of why they get lumped in with like the metalcore, because as somebody who was front and centered with the mall emo metalcore hot topic core crowd, who not to sound like a hipster, but they all listened to this stuff before it became like mainstream. Same
Okay.
kids who listen to Escape the Fate were the same kids who listened to like the Devil Wears Prada and like Alexis is on fire or Alex is on fire,
No,
whatever
I
it is.
know. Yeah, I'm not
Shoulders.
denying that. I know. Like, they're definitely in that scene. I'm just trying to figure out why, because, like, obviously, like, once they got Craig, they kind of doubled down on the metalcore and the rock elements. But that first album with Ronnie, to me, like, it sounds just more in line with, like, Hawthorne.
I guess it's just a scene, you know what I mean? You get lumped in with
Yeah,
something.
it's just like I obviously know that the same kids listen like Chiodos and like shit like that also love Escape the Fate. I'm just trying to figure out why, because that first album is just, yeah, it's just pure like emo to me.
Well, I mean, it was probably the perfect transition because those same kids loved Census Fail when Still Searching dropped.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, you know, like I said, just because something doesn't sound just, I mean, you can still be part of the scene, but still have a different genre. Like, the early November is definitely more emo, but they're still going on tour with Alistair. You know what I mean? Well, mostly because they're label mates, but the same scene like them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know, and that's yeah. I compared them to Green Day. That's like how Green Day is really more part of the rock scene than the pop punk scene.
Are they,
Escape the Fate is more a part of the metalcore scene than the emo scene.
yeah, I mean, to be fair, I mean, the most first time I saw Green Day, they played with Jimmy Eat World and Newfound Glory, so there's that.
Yeah, but that doesn't change all the stuff I said earlier. How they seem to get lumped in with like, more like Aerosmith and like,
Oh, they're definitely elevated beyond everything else. You know what I mean? Like they didn't
yeah,
have that goofy pop punk sheen that they weren't rocking Dickies and Vans and skateboarding like Blink were. You know what I mean? There's a whole different culture. They're more lumped in with, I guess, what somebody would say like a stoner rock crowd, people than go like dog crap on somebody's front porch and skateboard away while laughing.
yeah. Good point.
There's that. You know what I mean? It's a culture.
Yeah,
You know, the scene are comprised of human beings.
yeah. No, I know. And yes, I wanted to throw that in there real quick because, as you know, like, as you of all people know, because I think I've just been texting you about how I think like Dying is Your Latest Fashion is underrated as shit. Oh my god, not overrated. It is underrated. So I think you of all people know how much I've been hooked on that shit. I just wanted to throw that in since we were talking about like the entry level like mall emo, and I definitely think they fit the bill. Even if they were kind of a part of a different crowd, I still think they fit the bill because they're definitely entry level. Definitely were in their time at least. I would say top 40. I remember all the fucking scene kids loved Escape the Fate.
Oh, they did. They did. And they dressed the same as the kids who also liked, metalcore too.
Yeah, exactly. They loved it.
I'm just looking at my CDs right now and just trying to see if there's any like bands we're missing.
Yeah, by all means, because if you have any closing words, because I do think we're getting ready to wrap this up.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a whole bunch of different emos and everything. Like, I mean, and not everything's perfect, I guess, per se, with our explanations, just because, you know, you gotta draw a line somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just one dude. Like, I'm sure I got some things wrong. I'm sure people are gonna think I'm a fucking idiot while they're listening to this.
Because I was just looking at my CDs, and I was looking at, like, Taking Back Sunday, and how a lot of people consider them emo, but it's not the same kind of emo. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's not that mainstream, like, cut my wrist and black my eyes emo, even though Taking Back Sunday were mainstream, but
yeah, I would say
it's a whole different culture and scene. You know what I mean? Like, they're definitely more lumped into the pop punk rock crowd, if anything.
Yeah, Q without the E and Make Damn Sure, definitely two giant songs.
Yeah, but they weren't. But I don't like because I was just thinking about how like these like emo bands, but like Get Back Sunday, yeah, I consider them emo, but they're not part of emo. If you know what I'm trying to say, like
yeah, I guess. All right, so like if My Chemical Romance and like shit like that, if that's the mall emo crowd, then Taking Back Sunday would be like the college emo crowd because that was like their audience is like not older, but like yeah, they'd be more like the 16, 17-year-old normal kids. Not
the Saves the Day and shit
yeah,
like
not
that.
not the 12-year-old like straightened black hair kids.
Yeah, like the Good Charlotte Chronicles of Life and Death, which is a very underrated mall emo album too.
And I kind of say that with the same kind of like joking, loving shit that I say with mall emo. But I guess college emo, yeah, that would be shit like I guess like Taking Back Sunday, Early November, Brand New, yeah, like that whole scene right there.
Yeah, they're not rocking guy liner, they're rocking button up flannel shirts.
Yeah,
and, like,
exactly. Yeah, as we both know, because I wore a button down to the Early November video shoot.
Yeah, but like it's a different emo. I just want to throw a disclaimer out to anybody before they start smashing comments going, well, Taking Back Sunday had hits before all those bands.
Yeah, this wasn't necessarily meant for us to talk about every single entry level band, every single top 40 band. I was just more like just going with a general, like I just want to talk about it.
Vibe.
Yeah, I just want, especially because I think this is going to be a two-parter. Because next week I think we're going to talk about bands that we think are underrated.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, he's the one that came up with it. So pat yourself on the back, sir.
I just did.
Okay, very nice. Yeah, so I just wanted to talk about it because I really wanted to get my thoughts out on how I really don't like the mindset of just because something's popular, it's bad.
Yeah, that's gatekeeping. You know what I mean? Like you should want a younger crowd to keep.
Yeah, like
the younger crowd is the one that's buying everything. You know what I mean? Like we nowadays, 25. There's really not a lot of fanboying going on. But when you're 13, they're the kids that like look at these like guys and thinking like, oh my god, I want to buy all their shit.
Exactly.
When I'm 25, I'm thinking, why should I give this 19-year-old kid all my money? Just a guy.
Exactly.
He's probably poorer than me, but when you're like 13, you have these people on this giant pedestal. So they're the kids that are keeping the scene alive financially and just keeping it alive musically for future generations. So I mean, if a band gets mainstream success, hey, if being in a band is like being a brother, you gotta support the homies because there's not a finite amount of wealth and fame in the genre. One band gets big, that should raise the floor for every other band, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, exactly. Like with what Blink did.
Just with music, or streaming or anything in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like some I wanted to touch up on how I think, because obviously we like to talk a lot about the past and the albums that we love and everything, but this is a podcast that is done in 2020, right? Like as of today, the date is September 10th, 2020. If you're watching on YouTube, it's obviously going to be a little later than that because we wait a couple days before we upload to YouTube. We do that because Twitch is like has this weird rule, like you can't put VODs up like within 2 days of it streaming. But that's besides the point. The point is we are a podcast in the modern day, so I like to try and like throw some modern shit in there too. So one thing I want to see if you agree with me on if emo rap is like the modern day like entry level pop punk, like how like Juice WRLD, like MGK, like stuff, especially like because MGK just makes like pop punk music now. But like you know, like Juice WRLD and like you know Lil Lotus and stuff like that. How like that stuff is like incredibly popular, and it has like ties to the pop punk genre. Like obviously, I know it's not a 1-by-1 recreation, but you could definitely tell like these people were influenced by pop punk and probably more specifically mall emo.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really tricky question, honestly, for me to answer because, like, I don't want to sound like that grumpy old guy where it goes, if it doesn't sound like this, it's not it, but, like, unless it has guitars, it's hard for me to call it pop punk. But, I mean, it definitely has that vibe and inspiration, so, I mean...
most of them do have guitars.
Oh, fair enough, then. but you know what I mean, though. I don't know. I've listened to enough emo rap or depressing rap music to really kind of sink my teeth into this to give you a true good answer. But I mean, if the kids like it and they start delving deeper into more, I guess, guitars and basses, then by all means, go for it. But you can take the floor on this one because you're definitely the more educated one on this matter.
Yeah, because I would say, I just like I don't know, like I hear the song "I Don't Even Like You" by Lil Lotus, and that to me, it just is a pop punk song. It's just over a hip hop beat instead of like regular like pop punk drums. Like I listen to that stuff and I think like, I mean I don't know how many. This is why I wanted to ask it as a question and not just make a general statement. Is because I don't know how many kids are listening to Juice WRLD and then thinking, yo, this guy loves, like the mid-2000s, like pop punk and mall emo scene. Maybe I'll check that shit out. I don't know how many kids are doing that. I know kids are listening to Juice WRLD and like wanting to hear more stuff like Juice WRLD. That's why I don't know if it's necessarily entry level for pop punk, but like, I also don't know. So anybody watching, if you're like watching on YouTube, let me know in the comments if maybe emo rap exposed you to like the pop punk genre, because at the end of the day it is rap. It's called emo rap, so yes. it is rap first and foremost, but like a lot of the stuff definitely takes heavy influence from pop punk and, like I said, more specifically I would say mall emo, but it definitely takes heavy inspiration from both. So if listen to Juice WRLD or like X or anybody like that, if that exposed you to maybe like the outer, like greater pop punk genre, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, that'd definitely be interesting to hear if anybody does. So, yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, but I wanted to touch on that real quick just before we, stop, because like I said, I like to put more modern touches, and as I said before, I definitely think the genre is heading for a revival. I don't know how like big the revival will be, but nonetheless, I do think there's going to be a revival. It's already started, in my opinion. It's already started with MGK, because I wouldn't even call MGK emo rap. His old stuff was just like regular hip hop, and then he just, I guess when Eminem killed him in that fucking rap battle, he's like, fuck this, I'm going over to pop punk.
Good for him. I'm enjoying the songs.
Honestly, I think he's way better. I know I'm a little biased because this is the pop punk podcast, not the hip hop podcast. So I know I'm a little biased, but I definitely think he does pop punk so much better than hip hop.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I mean, we're human beings. We have our own biases and what we like and dislike. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, I'm gonna like an RPG much better than you do, and you're like a shooter more than I do. So, I mean, that's just we're human beings. We like what we like. You know what I mean?
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, in my opinion, because like I kind of had my doubts a little bit with Bloody Valentine, but then Concert for Aliens came out. I'm like, yo, this is genuinely very good shit.
Oh, it's catchy as all
Like
anything.
even if it wasn't MGK, it didn't have that surprise factor of this is MGK doing this, I would still love it.
Yeah, it's a generally a good song. It's not. It just didn't beat expectations. It was just a good song. You know what I mean?
Exactly, I agree 100%. And if anybody watching hasn't heard his song "Concert for Aliens" yet, listen to it. Honestly, I know like a lot of people like they tend to think like, oh, like it's MGK. That's not gonna be a good pop punk song. No, I'm telling you, listen to it. Your mind will be blown away. It's fucking awesome.
Yes, I agree.
And yeah, I think that about wraps it up. But do you have any closing thoughts?
No, all I gotta say is keep listening to music, keep liking what you're liking, and God bless.
Yeah, and I think that does it for me too. So thank you everybody who watched live on Twitch. I know I saw a few people in the chat. Like I said, I know I'm not really interacting with chat, but I see you guys, and I appreciate you guys for stopping in and hanging out with us live. And for anybody that watches on YouTube, you guys are amazing too. Yeah, and I think that's gonna do it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, and then we will catch you guys next week. Either if you're watching on Twitch, Thursday at 3:30, or if you're watching on YouTube, Tuesday at noon. Peace.